It's time for Wise Money with Korhorn Financial Group with certified financial planners Kevin Korhorn, Mike Bernard, and Josh Gregory.
Welcome to another episode of the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group, where every week we're helping you take your next wise step in your financial life. Thanks for being here, friends. My name is Mike Bernard. I'm your host. I'm also one of the certified financial planners on the program. With me in the KFG studios, my fellow CFP, Kevin Korhorn, and special guest, back again, Corey Johnson.
With your 401k or other retirement plan at work, there are 5 critical decisions that you need to make, both at the time you enroll in the plan, but then also on an ongoing basis. What are these 5 key decisions, and how do you make great decisions with all 5? We're helping you with that and more on this episode of the Wise Money Show.
This is why I love financial planning. Financial planning is all about giving yourself as many choices as possible and identifying those, being aware of them, and then the financial planning process, looking at all 6 areas of your financial life, helps guide you to, of those, those great, good choices, which is the right one, which is the great path to take. And you can do that through a comprehensive financial planning approach. If you have a question for the program or have any needs, we'd love to hear from you. You can call or text 574-222-2000, 574-222-2000. Online, wisemoneyshow.com is where you can find us and engage with us that way, and then all over social media as well. Just search The Wise Money Show. Corey, welcome back. Second show in a row. Last show, if you missed it and you own or run a small business, there's 5 challenges every small business faces with having a retirement plan. You can overcome those, okay? And a lot of law changes have made that easier, but more complicated, so work with the right team. Now, turning the focus from running a plan to actually participating in the plan, there are 5 key decisions that you need to make. Before we get into those, Kevin, as you're sitting down, and Corey, you as well, but sitting down with people, and they're just about to get started in their 401k, what is the most common question that you get?
I think the most common question, because when people think 401k, the only thing they're really thinking is investments. And the question is, how should I invest my money? And it's very interesting because I think when you're born in the hospital, they have 2 different shots that they can give you. One is a saver shot and one is an investor shot. And if you get the saver shot, you are not an investor. And if you try to become an investor, you're going to be miserable. The problem is, to reach your long-term goals, it's hard to be a saver with saver results and get where you need to go financially with your investments.
Because building wealth is a formula, and we're geeks, so we make everything a math issue. So, but building wealth is cash times time times risk, right? And so if you're not throwing a lot of cash and you don't have a lot of time, you're not taking a lot of risk, then that equation, your inputs to that equation, it's going to be hard to build a lot of wealth. If you've got a lot of time and you're throwing as much cash as you possibly can, but you're not taking enough risk, that also is going to limit your wealth building ability. So yeah, I would agree, Kevin. I would change that. Corey, do you have, what's the most common question?
Yeah, and it really depends.
Same thing?
Well, that is definitely a huge one, but I would say a common misconception is, 1, how much is my 401k going to make me? Which that's just a misunderstanding of what a 401k is. But then also, how do I get my money out of the plan if I were to leave or if I just need I need my money?
And that is a great one because someday we'll write a book about common misconceptions of the 401k plan, and a lot of people think it's like the company has control over my money, the company is going to keep my money, these types of things. And the rules are set up based on ERISA, and listen to our last show if you're curious about the Employee Retirement Income Security Act. But yeah, it's your money. It is the only part that might not be your money is if there's any vesting involved. But that's.
You think, so we're in this day and age where everyone's baby names are, these wild. I have a Carrington and a Kuiper, right? So they're very unique names. ERISA? You think we're going to, have we seen someone? I bet there's an ERISA out there. If you're in ERISA, please reach out to the Wise Money Show or want to know that you exist. See, I would agree. Those are great first questions. We get those all the time. See, I get that. How much should I contribute? I would have said that's probably the most common that I get. How much? And I think it speaks to your point, Kevin, about this risk of investing. How much should I gamble? I feel like is more the question. That's the question behind the question.
Sure.
But we'll get into that. Okay, so regardless of all those questions, you've got 5 key decisions that you need to make when you're signing up for your 401k. But the other key point, guys, isn't just what are these 5 and how do you make a great decision. It's not just up front, on an ongoing basis. And I'm going to ask the guys, how frequently should you revisit these questions? But on an ongoing basis, you need to make sure that you like your answer to these 5 questions. So the very first one is actually the one that I said, coincidentally, and that is, how much should you be contributing to the plan? So what are your choices? How do you help people make a great decision?
I think it comes down, one, what buckets do you have available in your retirement journey? Okay, because there's IRAs, there's Roth IRAs, there's 401ks. So that's one piece of the pie. But then what is the percentage of your pay that you need to get to fully fund your retirement?
Yeah. What's the necessary sacrifice? And I like to quote somebody else, because if it's coming from me, people listen and they hear a number from me and they think, well, yeah, you don't care about me. You don't care if my life's miserable. I can't even make it, paycheck to paycheck, and you're telling me I should put X amount in. So I like to talk, that bald guy with the Southern accent that
who's really mean, yells at people.
Yeah, and has 7 steps for babies, and he says 15%. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, that's good. I don't think anyone's ever been disappointed when they hit 60 or 65 or 70 that they'd saved that much, because again, what you're doing is you're putting keys on your cosmic keychain to unlock doors it's not just in retirement. You don't know when you're going to need this money. You don't know what the future holds. So this is really your rainy day fund. And if you say, hey, I don't know how much to contribute because I might not be here for that long, well, put it in a Roth. Put it on the Roth side. And if you leave the job soon, you can roll that money into your Roth IRA, and you can also take your contributions out.
Yeah, okay, so that's the second decision. We'll get to that. But so oftentimes, as we're sitting down with folks and for initial financial planning meeting, we're asking questions and talking about goals and how you think you're doing, blah, blah, blah. And, okay, so how much are you contributing to the 401k? Oh, the maximum. And I've just learned to pause at that point because that maximum means different things to different people. And I would say more than 50% of the time, when someone says they're contributing the maximum, what they actually mean is the minimum. In their view, and maybe in yours, the maximum is, well, I'm doing as much as I need to get the company match. Mm-hmm. That's the minimum.
Right.
See, now I'm turning into that bald guy yelling at people. I know.
Get off my lawn.
I mean that in love. No, think of that. Change your paradox. That's the paradigm. That's the minimum. That's a minimum you should do. Get the full match. The maximum is the IRS limit, which right now is $22,500. It's up to 100% of what you make, with a cap at $22,500 if you're younger than age 50. If you're age 50 or older, or what I call experienced in life, it's $30,000. That's the maximum. I'd want you to do as much as possible, get there, just to get enough for the match. That's the minimum. To me, I would agree with you, Kevin. Start at 15%. No one's ever been mad about that. Build that, create that as a habit. Try to work towards hitting that IRS limit, because I don't think you're going to be mad about that either. But then as you get further on down the road, in your 40s, certainly by your 50s, you need to be building that 5-factor retirement plan to see, all right, how much do I actually need to?
Yeah.
When you're in your 30s, you can't. It's more about habit building than it is, well, how much exactly do I need to contribute to be able to retire when I'm 65? There's so many variables, so many things that will change. You're not going to be able to get to an exact number. It's more so habit and vector, the keys to that cosmic keychain, Kevin, like you mentioned. How does auto enrollment fit into this? Really quick, Corey, when there's auto enrollment, what percentages are those?
So typically it's going to start out at, it's up to the employer, but the base is 3%. Okay, that's going to put you in. Some are at 5%, some are at 6%. It's really up to the employer there. But that makes some important decisions for you that we're going to talk about here in a little bit, about what you're invested in and what the tax consequences of that is. But
I've said that before on the Wise Money Show. I'm not a fan of the auto enrollment, and also that auto enrollment percentage I would think is too low as well. So what are more of the important financial decisions you need to make with your 401k? We've got that and more coming up on the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group. Hello, YouTube. Thanks for being here. This is the Wise Money Show. What you're watching right now is our weekly 1-hour talk show that airs right here on this channel every Saturday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Also on podcast at the same time, and also on a couple local radio stations, which is why the content is structured the way that it is, as long as it is. If you're looking for something more palatable, shorter, more direct, we've got Next Wise Step videos that air every single weekday. That's right, a ton of content. Chances are, if you have a question on it or you faced it financially, we've got content about it. Not just, throw something against the wall, see if it sticks. No, from a financial planning perspective, content on it. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications so you're aware every time we drop a new video. If you like the content, leave questions as well. We appreciate it.
Good.
All righty.
I got the finger.
Yes.
Well, I felt like I was monologuing and I wanted a little bit.
Well, I looked over and it's 10.
I know.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Second decision here. If you have a 401k or retirement plan at work, 403b, gosh, oftentimes we just say 401k, 403b, pretty similar, guys. What are the big decisions that you need to make up front and on an ongoing basis? We're helping with that and more. This is the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group. Thanks for being here. My name is Mike Bernard. With me in the KFG studios, Kevin Korhorn, special guest Corey Johnson. Stay up to date on all Wise Money content. Find us online, wisemoneyshow.com, all over social media. We're there as well. Search the Wise Money Show. The 5 key decisions that you need to make when you're enrolling in your retirement plan through work, whether that's a 401k, a 403b, now even a simple IRA. We're going to talk about that here in just a second. What are those 5 key decisions? And then on an ongoing basis, going back to these decisions and making sure that you're making the right ones. First one, how much should you contribute? Working with the CFP, they're going to help you dial in on what that number is and how much that should be. Start at 15% in our opinion. Second key decision is, should you contribute pre-tax or Roth?
And if we go back to the auto enrollment that we left off on, that is going to automatically put you into the pre-tax account, which it might be the right choice for you, but for many of us, it might be the wrong one that just creates a tax liability in the future.
Yeah, and the auto enrollment, that is sometimes, depending on your HR department, that they're not a fan of that, because if you auto enroll a new team member in the plan and they didn't want to, but they don't necessarily look at their paycheck stubs on a regular basis, and they see after a time period where you can easily undo it, that it's happening. And it depends on the person, but people can get a little disappointed by this whole thing, even though you've told them 17 times, and they've got 8 emails about it and everything else. So they can still somehow not know that was happening, and I understand that starting a new job is kind of an overwhelming thing. There's lots of stuff to it. But you're right, and Mike's, your big beef, Mike, is that if I get auto-enrolled, I assume the job is done, and it's not. That's just a down payment. But here's what's coming, and you need to understand this. Every plan is going to eventually have to restate their plan and offer auto-enrollment.
Yeah, I think it's Congress isn't listening to the Wise Money Show yet. I don't think, or they are and they don't like me, because to me, auto enrollment is okay. Oh, I'm supposed to save my 401k and be ready to retire. I was auto enrolled, so done. No, that's not going to get you where you need to go. But Congress is basically forcing it, and I like the nudge. I do, but have that nudge be okay. Yeah, I'm going to do this. Now, let me make these 5 decisions, as opposed to let me put these 5 decisions on autopilot where I'm not even making the decision, someone else is for me. Because here's the idea, going back to this second the second key decision, pre-tax or Roth. When you get auto-enrolled, is that at the beginning of your career or at the end of your career? Probably at the beginning, right? Because you're starting a new job. And yes, you can get auto-enrolled when you switch jobs. I get that, but odds are near the beginning of your career. So you've got more time. Gosh, advantage Roth, in my opinion. The more time you got, advantage Roth. If at the beginning of your career, earlier in your career, are you making the most you'll ever make in your life, or is it a starting salary? Probably starting salary. Everyone's different, but probably starting. Once again, making less, probably going to make more in the future. Advantage Roth, right? So to me, this is exactly the time where you want to harness these decisions and make great choices. And Kevin, the other, what did we say? I changed my middle name to Roth. Michael Roth Bernard. I just love it. Not as much as the bald guy over in Tennessee with the accent. He makes it sound like if you're not doing Roth, you're making a huge mistake. That's definitely not the case. But I think a lot more people should be using Roth that aren't.
And some people, it's not always black and white that, you have to do pre-tax or you have to do Roth. Some people need to do both.
Yeah. So this is a long, long time ago. Quick side comment. We were in a situation where we were straddling a tax bracket. And so for my wife's 401k, we had her doing half pre-tax, half Roth. I had it sort of dialed in. There's a couple ways that if you're in that situation, you can approach it. And for lack of, more creativity, we were doing 50-50. And it was at a rare time, this is a long time ago, where the retirement plan advisor came out and talked to her staff. And someone else asked the question. And this guy stood in front of them and said, "That's dumb. It's dumb, and you would never want to contribute some pre-tax and some Roth. That's dumb, in my opinion. How great way to alienate people, and you have no idea."
I know, and so that story reminds me of a story. There was a retirement plan advisor that was in an office, and he made an offhanded comment similar to that to this woman, and for I think a period of 5 or 6 years, she couldn't look at anything related to her finances.
Oh, yeah.
So we don't realize the power of our words to either heal or do great harm.
Yeah.
And so this is where, it's so important to be encouraging with this stuff, because most people, I'm just going to say everyone's insecure about their finances. There's even if you do this for a living, there's still this fear of missing out. There's this, hey, there's something out there that I don't know that I should know, that I could, if I knew that, I could help my clients even better. So yeah, I think we have to be really careful with that.
The other thing with this, so pre-tax, when you make your contributions, it's a deduction on your tax return. Okay, you still have to pay FICA tax on it, but there's no federal and state. It's a deduction. And then all the money pre-tax within your 401k is sheltered from taxes, so dividends, capital gains, all that stuff. It doesn't land on your return. And then when you withdraw that money out there in the future, that's when you have to report it as income. Whatever you drew out that year, each year, you have to report that as income, just like you earned it, ordinary income. Okay, so that's pre-tax. Roth, there's no deduction on your contribution. You put your money in, it doesn't help you on your taxes today. But then all that investment activity is sheltered once again. And then when you pull that money out in the future, most importantly, the growth on that growth comes out tax-free. You don't have to pay tax on it when you withdraw it. So really the question is, are you in a higher tax bracket today and will be in a lower tax bracket when you draw the money out? Or are you in a pretty low tax bracket today and you think you'll be in a higher tax bracket tomorrow, or they're going to increase tax rates or something? That's when you'd want a Roth. So that's essentially it. You're going to want to talk to a certified financial planner, someone that can help give you some perspective, help you with that. But there's another key decision that you've got to make starting right now, and that is with a company match. The company match has always been pre-tax. It's always been pre-tax. You never had the choice on that. You could make it after tax by then doing an in-plan Roth conversion. But now, just about, and I'm saying it jokingly, it's available, but no one can do it yet. And that is, you can decide to have your matching contribution be Roth. So this is yet now another decision. I don't think we're going to make it the sixth key decision you need to make with your 401k. It's a big one. So.
Yeah, and that is actually pretty unbelievable. The only thing that I can see that will allow that to happen, it's gonna have to be technology, because the number of moving parts and the ability to get something wrong in that whole program, it's pretty astounding.
I did misspeak earlier, so getting something wrong. I said Congress must not be listening to the Wise Money Show. They absolutely are. Because I was belly aching about not being able to make your matching contribution, Roth. I was belly aching about that maybe 2 years ago, and then within a year, all of a sudden it was part of the Secure Act 2.0. That's pretty cool. Thank you, Congress. It's the only time I've said that. All right, so those are two big decisions you need to make with your 401k. Third one, let's start unpacking it, and that is what Kevin mentioned as maybe the most common question people ask, and that is, what should I invest in? What is your investment mix? Kevin, you've actually said in previous shows, we've talked about, hey, what's the biggest financial decision someone makes in their life? You've actually said the single biggest financial decision is your investment risk, or your investment mix.
Allocation.
Yeah.
To use a fancy word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's because if you get that wrong up front, you can go, gosh, we've had this where you go 2 decades or whatever, and someone comes in and meets with their CFP and they sit down and say, oh, I just can't stand my 401k. It stinks. It's not making any money, blah, blah, blah. And you look at it, say, oh, well, no wonder you're investing in just bonds, or you're investing in a qualified default investment alternative. We'll get to that in just a second after the break. And it's just in cash. Yeah, no wonder it stinks, because you're using Clydesdales, and you don't have the right investment mix. Or the opposite, where you went gangbusters on risk. In the short term, it was risky, and you jumped out at the wrong time, and you weren't patient and let it rebound. So we're going to talk more about this big decision as well as the other two. We've got that and more coming up on the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group. I just need to go for it. You were looking down. I was like, I'll just keep talking.
No, I was yeah. So, okay, so the we're on number 3.
Correct.
Okay, at the end of number 3?
Yes. Good. That's why I was hustling, so that we could fit
job.
it in. All right. Third segment, investment mix. I'm going to tee it up, and then someone's got to start talking, because I was just way too much of me.
No, it's good. It's good stuff. You're the host.
What are the big financial decisions you need to make when you are enrolling in your 401k or 403b or simple IRA, and then on an ongoing basis? I would argue once a year. Okay, we're going to get into this, but what are those big decisions that everyone needs to make with their 401k? We're helping with that right now. This is the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group. Thanks for being here. My name's Mike Bernard. With me in the KFG studios, Kevin Korhorn, and special guest Corey Johnson. Every episode of the Wise Money Show, as well as a lot of other content, it's on the YouTube channel. Go check it out. Go to YouTube, search the Wise Money Show, subscribe to it there, turn on notifications so you're made aware every time we drop new content. All right. Every time I would argue every year, like I said, but certainly when you're enrolling in your 401k or 403b or retirement plan at work, you've got to make 5 key decisions. Auto enrollment is this big thing. It's this big push, and it means you're not making any decision. Hate it. Hate that idea. Love the idea of nudging you and encouraging more people to participate, but then make these decisions. This third decision is, what's your investment mix?
Yeah, so in your investment mix, really, it's, in my opinion, it comes down to 2 main factors. There's a whole variety of them, but they are, how long do you have until retirement? When does that cash flow situation change? And then what is your appetite for risk, or what risk do you have to take in order to fully fund your retirement? And when you are auto-enrolled into the QDIA, the Qualified Default Investment Alternative, likely that's either some type of money market or a target date fund are probably the 2 most popular choices.
So, and just to unpack that a little bit, a QDIA, as Corey said a little more quickly, that Qualified Default Investment Alternative is a fund that has to be selected for people that are auto-enrolled. When you auto-enroll, they don't want the liability of selecting investments for you on the plan sponsor at all. So they say, hey, if you're going to auto-enroll at 3%, 4%, 5%, whatever that number is, it's going to go in this fund. So whether I'm 21 years old and auto-enrolling into this, or 61 years old, I'm auto-enrolling into the same fund. And I can tell you this, it's where that money should go is different based on those ages.
Yeah. Your typical investment choices, we talked about this last week when we were talking about the major challenges and frustrations of having a 401k, and that is typically most 401ks don't offer a robust lineup of great investment choices, and they're stuffed full of target date funds. I would say target date funds, this is just my professional opinion, you can get mad at me if you disagree. Target date funds are appropriate for very few people. Very, very few. A certain segment. It's not no one, so they serve a purpose, but it's not for everyone. I would hope that you're working with the CFP and that your investment lineup is robust enough that you can actually build your own custom and appropriate investment mix. I call the target date fund a prefabricated portfolio. It's just fine. It's just fine for some folks. What often stands out to me is when we're looking at someone's 401k and they've got a target date fund and then they've got a smattering of other funds. Well, that's like grabbing a prefab and then also adding more windows on top of the windows. No, that doesn't make sense. Or adding 3 doors.
Right.
No, your target date fund, if you're choosing that, then that's all of it. And I would rather have you go through, of the 3 or 4 large cap funds available to you, which one's the best one, most appropriate for you? Of the couple mid cap funds available, which one's the best one for you? Small cap, same thing. International, same thing. Emerging markets, commodity, real estate. I'd rather build out that mix that then you control the rebalance, you control whether you want to make a change or something like that, as opposed to just going target date, personally.
Yeah, absolutely. I think sometimes in terms of an automatic versus a manual shifter, if you will.
We'll get to that here in just a second. How does someone make this decision, right? So I want to go back to this. For investment mix, Corey, you mentioned a lot. If a 401k or if a company is not working with a certain type of retirement plan advisor, you've got one person that shows up once every 5 years to talk to the employees. Oftentimes, the participants view that person as the investment advisor, and they get their investment advice from that individual. I think that's a terrible idea, personally. So what's the alternative to that?
Well, I'd say one, meeting with an advisor regularly, but then deciding what allocation do I want. It seems like you need large cap, mid cap, small cap, international, emerging markets, probably some real estate, and potentially, depending on where you're at, bonds and a stable value.
Yeah, and so that's a nice mix. But earlier you mentioned, Corey, this idea of what risk are you comfortable with. The reason why you want to meet with a financial planner is to answer the question, what risk is necessary?
Yeah.
Because if I'm comfortable with a certain level of risk, but in order to reach my long-term goals, I need to take more risk, I've got to reconcile that. So if you say, no, I'm not taking more risk, that's fine. There are simple levers. You just got to save more. And if you say, okay, I'll save more because I don't want to take the risk, that's fine. Or if you say, no, I can't save any more, then you either have to take more risk or change your goals, extend your time horizon. It all needs to kind of work together.
I think sitting down with a CFP who can look at your situation and let you know, here's really what your investments need to do for you in order for you to reach your financial goals. That's the person that is equipped to help give you investment advice, not the person that shows up once every 5 years. Now, if you've got a team that shows up every 6 months or on a regular basis, and you get to know them and you've communicated your goals to them and they know what else you have, they might be in a position to help you. Yeah. But I love working with a CFP that knows your situation, knows your goals, knows your risk tolerance, and can kind of walk with you on that. All right, the fourth big decision that you need to make when you're starting your 401k, when you're enrolling or on an ongoing basis, is your rebalance schedule. What'd you call this, Kevin? Your shifter? Yeah, but your rebalance schedule. What's that all about? What is a rebalance schedule? What's rebalancing anyway?
Well, that's funny because I want to answer your question, but when I was talking about an automatic versus a manual, I was talking about a target date versus selecting individual funds. But this as well is an automatic versus a stick shift. Because if you say, hey, I don't have a rebalance schedule set up, then you're basically using the stick shift. You have to decide when to shift. And for most folks, it would happen so seldom that they're just not going to remember unless you're super hyper organized. And the reality is no one wants to do it. To be a good investor is totally counterintuitive to what your lying eyes see and tell you. Because you look at that and you say, well, this fund is doing really well and this fund's doing really poorly. So I want less of the poorly and more of the well. And that is the wrong answer because the oldest adage in investing is to buy low and sell high. By automatic rebalancing, you're selling high and buying low.
Yeah, go ahead, Corey.
Yeah, I was going to say the automatic rebalance, I like to call it the guardrails to your retirement plan. Because every quarter or every semi-annually or every year, once a year, it's going to automatically just put you back to where you would like to be.
True up. Yep.
Yeah. Make sure that recipe is correct. So yeah, you've got to buy low, sell high. That's how you should invest. Well, but I don't know what the market's going to do on Monday. I don't know what the market's going to do next week, next quarter, next year. I don't know. So how do I do that? Does that mean I have to be this great predictor and I've got to be a good guesser? No. Unless you're a trader, then you're working the system. But for the rest of us that are long-term investors, you buy low and sell high two ways. One is buying today or investing today and over the long term. Because when you look at the statistics, it's 50% of every day the stock market's going to be down. But when you expand that out to a quarter or a year or 5 years, it's less and less chance that the stock market's going to be down over that longer time period. So that's one way that you buy low and sell high, is just to be a long-term investor, buying consistently. The other is through rebalancing. What's my overall recipe? And then snapping back to that, I agree, Corey, on an automatic basis. We're going to explain that a little bit more, as well as hit the fifth major decision. We've got that and more coming up on the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group. All right, YouTube, Kevin's got to leave. We'll see on the radio waves and podcast if we can make it sound like he's here. If AI is able to keep Darth Vader's voice the same for the next hundreds of years, maybe we can get Kevin's voice AI'd into this thing in this final segment.
Mike, I am not your father.
All right.
I just need you to say some catchphrases and I'll plug them in there.
Yeah, that's right. All right. Okay, so I want to explain a little bit of the why with rebalance. The why and the what. Mm-hmm. We've explained, a little bit of the what, but I think the why is going to be important. And then I'm curious to you, as you're talking to new plans, with new plans, we're able to guide and coach them. But existing plans, how many have a rebalance schedule like as a feature, or is it?
It's really up to the record keeper.
Oh, really?
Does the record keeper have that function?
Ah, interesting.
Or else you are using the manual stick shifted. You or your advisor are doing that for you.
All right, so we'll ask that. We'll talk about that. And then fifth major decision is beneficiaries. And then we can get into how often someone should make these decisions. We can talk a little bit more about or kind of recap the auto enrollment thing as well. I was planning on hitting at the end. We've hit it quite a bit already. So, fourth segment. Here we go. Thanks for being here. This is the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group. My name is Mike Bernard. With me in the KFG studios, Kevin Korhorn and special guest Corey Johnson. Every episode of the Wise Money Show is on podcast, so gosh, it's spring, it's nice out, throw the headphones in, go for a walk, whatever, and do some yard work, all that stuff. Put on podcasts. Go to wherever you listen. Search the Wise Money Show. Subscribe to it there so that every single week as we post a new talk show that gets right to your phone, right to your podcast, but then also rate the show as well. That's great feedback for us and then helps others who are looking for content on wise financial decisions, helps them find us. So we appreciate that. Right now, we are talking about the 5 key decisions that everyone needs to make with their 401k or with their retirement plan at work. This isn't optional. You've got to make these decisions. Now, we're going to talk a little bit more about this, but if you do the auto enrollment, those decisions are being made for you. It's not there. I refuse to make these decisions. No, you have to. But in auto enrollment, they're going to be made for you. And we would argue, gosh, no, you want to make these decisions. The fourth one is what we're in right now, and that is make your rebalance schedule. So, Corey, I guess explain a little bit more of the what. Like, what is a rebalance schedule? Why is it important? What else could you add there?
Yeah, and think if we're going to just keep hitting on auto enrollment and the things we like and don't like about it, but in the auto enrollment, the default is you're not going to have a rebalance schedule. It's not there. Okay.
Oh, see, I didn't even know that. Gosh.
So likely you are driving the stick shift at that point.
Interesting.
But the why would you want to do that is you don't want to have to drive a manual stick shift, especially if you're not used to investments. Like, you want to make that automatic and work with your CFP so that you're not subject to your own whims on what you think is a good time to go buy and sell. And
Yeah, I completely agree. The big idea, so just to break it down a little bit more, because some of you, especially if you've had a 401k for a long time, maybe still at the same employer, you're not familiar with a rebalance schedule, automatic rebalance schedule, because maybe it wasn't even an option long ago, and you've just never really paid much attention to it. But the big idea is if for your risk tolerance, for your financial goals, the right recipe of investment allocation is, 30% in large cap US, 10% in mid cap, 15% small cap, 15% international, 5% emerging, 5% real estate, something like that, right? Well, going along, because all of those categories are great investment areas that together take risk, but when combined together, they provide diversification and give you an overall mathematically high level of rate of return that you can achieve over the long term with less risk because you've got different eggs in different baskets. But inevitably, they're cyclical. So large cap might be performing really well, and what was supposed to be, what did I say, 25%? It's supposed to be 25%, can't remember, is now creeping closer to 30% because it's doing better. But small cap, what was supposed to be 15%, is now actually only 12%. And if you look back, decades and decades and decades, small cap crushes large cap. Or let me just say it differently, has crushed large cap. It's not even close. And when I say that to people and they're surprised, I think, no. Remember, Apple used to be a small company. Amazon used to be a small company. And so as these companies exploded, it provided all sorts of returns to investors at that small cap level. So anyway, but as your investment mix gets out of proportion, a rebalance schedule trims back some of that large cap that now is supposed to be 25%, let's say, I can't remember, and is now closer to 30, trims some of that back, and then adds it to the areas that are a little light because they've underperformed. And again, that's counterintuitive, like Kevin said earlier, because you might say, oh no, let the winners ride. Well, yeah, to an extent. That's why you don't want to rebalance every single day. But at the same time, the way to make money investing is to buy low, sell high. Well, how do you sell high if you're always letting, winners ride? It's to trim off a little bit of that growth that an area has seen and add it to an area that has underperformed. And you want to do that unemotionally, in my opinion, which is why you need an automatic rebalance schedule. Sorry, I was just monologuing there. Corey, anything you'd add to that?
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's an automatic rebalance allows you to buy what you have to buy, sell what you have to sell to maintain your asset allocation, and that allows you to buy high and sell low.
Yeah, that's buy low, sell
Buy
high.
low, yeah.
Got it. All right. So the fifth major decision that you need to make with your 401k is who's your beneficiary. Who's your beneficiary? And so, Corey, explain a little bit of that decision.
Yeah, this is probably the least fun decision to think about because really we're talking about if you were to go slip on a banana peel, who needs to receive this money? And really there's two different types of beneficiaries. There's a primary and a contingent, or sometimes they're called secondary beneficiaries there. But the primary is if you were to slip on a banana peel, who needs to get this money? Mm-hmm. And if you're married, likely it's going to be your spouse. I've not ran into too many people when helping participants make these decisions say, hey, I really want to not leave this money to my spouse, because then you have to go and get a document signed by them, and it's just not a fun conversation.
Yeah.
Secondary is if something were to happen to me and my primary, if we slip on the same banana peel, who gets the money then?
Right. And or also if your primary beneficiary passes away before you and you haven't gone in and made this decision again, changed it. So if you're the owner and you've got your spouse as a beneficiary and you've got your kids as contingent and your spouse passes away, what sort of emotional condition are you in to go in and make that change? It's certainly going to be a while before you'd actually be able to say, okay, I guess I need to clean this up. I mean, just gosh, so that's why having that contingent is important. It says, yeah, you're right, one of the least favorite decisions. It's also one that I think people are afraid to mess up because there are tax ramifications. There's obviously, inheritance type ramifications and all that sort of stuff. So it's not something that you need to dwell over, but it's also not something that is particularly enjoyable.
Yeah, I think one of the main ones that I run into quite a bit is, should I list my minor children as contingent beneficiaries?
Yep.
And I don't know, we're both in that situation right now, and your kids may not be at the maturity level when they turn age of majority, typically age 18, to receive a large lump sum of money.
Right. So you've got to be aware of that. You also need to be aware. This is why you got to work with a CFP qualified, someone that's able to help you, because the Secure Act has changed these rules. Really, used to be that you could, if you had a minor, you could structure things in such a way that they would get access to a little bit of the money for as long, for the rest of their life, and you could put a trustee in place and some other guardrails in. Now, whether you draw it up like that or not in your 401k, they are required to withdraw the entire account within 10 years of them turning age of majority. Okay, so if they're 15, well, once they turn 18, they've got 10 years to empty that account, withdraw all the money. If they inherit the dollars when they're 22, well, then they've got 10 years to withdraw all the money. So you've got to make that decision. Okay, so those 5 key decisions. How much are you going to contribute to your 401k? Are you going to contribute pre-tax or Roth? Second, what's your investment mix? What's your investment strategy that you're going to use? How often are you going to rebalance that investment mix? And we would argue set it up automatically. And then who's your beneficiary? These decisions have to be made up front when you're enrolling. But then on an ongoing basis, you need to revisit these decisions. I would argue once a year. I personally think, especially that Roth decision, pre-tax or Roth, that could change each and every year. Corey, would you recommend something similar, or what are your thoughts?
I would say taking a peek at it every quarter, because you're going to get a quarterly statement. That's not saying make the change. Just be aware of what's going on, and then making the changes maybe once a year, or when you're meeting with your CFP, because near the end of the year or halfway through the year, you might decide, hey, we've got this big bonus coming, or received the big bonus, and I need to switch from Roth to pre-tax.
Yeah,
I need to shelter some of that.
So this isn't revisiting your beneficiaries every quarter or even every year, guys, and making that decision, but it is on an ongoing basis, just making sure I've got those right and all that sort of stuff. So work with your CFP on that. They're going to help you with these 5 decisions. They're going to be guiding you and helping you make great decisions in these areas. So work with your CFP on that. All right, that's all the time we have for today. On behalf of Kevin Korhorn, Corey Johnson, myself, and all of us at Korhorn Financial Group, have a great weekend. We'll see you next Saturday for the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group.
Securities offered through Silver Oak Securities, member FINRA/SIPC. Advisory services offered through KFG Wealth Management, LLC. Doing business as Korhorn Financial Group. KFG Wealth Management, LLC and Silver Oak Securities Incorporated companies are unaffiliated.